Welcome to the Dialing for Dollars podcast, where we talk about life insurance, sales, and everything that happens between the first dial and the death benefit. I'm Corey Mitchell. Each week, I sit down with fellow agents, top performers, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders to unpack what works to help new agents win faster. I'm really excited about our today's guest. We have Jerry Emeka on. Jerry is a coach, speaker, and facilitator, working with professionals to bring awareness and improvement to their mindset and how they're being inside, which we'll get into shortly. Jerry, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Corey? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, very good. I'm excited to have you on because mindset is such a big thing, and there's kind of this prevailing stat in life insurance that only 8% of the agents who start in life insurance are still there in life insurance after 1 year. So, really excited to talk to you today. But tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how we can help.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so there are there's a reason why you can't scream at an apple tree expecting oranges. And I help folks understand that that apple tree that they're trying to get oranges from um, are in fact an apple tree. And if they're in fine fact, if they are in fact fine with an apple tree, I can help them, produce a bunch of apples. However, if it is that they want oranges, I can also help them realize that they've been actually yelling at an apple tree. And if they in fact want oranges, I can help them plant an orange tree.
All right. I love the metaphor.
Yeah. So simply put, said in a more serious way, I'm not a very serious person, but said in a more serious way, essentially is this: you cannot get people don't get what they want in life; they get who they are in life,
Hmm.
and that's the reason why someone who's trying to lose weight, who goes to the gym, they get the trainer, all that stuff. Maybe they lose the weight, but it snaps back on. It's because though they did the activities to lose weight, they never changed who they were being that would require them to be the type of person that wouldn't even have the weight in the first place. Set in your industry, and I've worked with insurance folks. In fact, that's how we got in touch with one another. I've helped folks understand that yes, activity, yes, make your cold calls, yes, do all the things that your business coach or sales coach is telling you to do. However, have you ever noticed how the top sales guy, it seems to be like hot knife through butter, and then with you, it's like I don't even know what the opposite analogy of that is. But you got a hot knife, you got butter, but for whatever reason, you're cutting bread over here. Like,
Yeah, you're not cutting it,
it's
you're
like
crushing.
what's exactly. So what's going on and what causes that? And I believe that a lot of that has to do with who you are being.
Yeah, we talk a lot about kind of identity, and that seems to be kind of a buzzword, but also makes so much sense. But it's kind of hard to peel back and understand what it really means and how you can step into that person or that character to actually
Right.
do what you're wanting to do. I mean, it seems like it's easier said than done. Maybe that's where you come in.
Yeah. It is easy. Well, actually, the doing is actually quite easy, and saying it is actually even easier. However, it's the consistency in being. So, and I'm sure folks who are listening to this have probably heard this before. However, when you were between the ages of 0 and 7, you accept certain things about yourself and start identifying with those characteristics and personality traits and whatnot, and you actually start believing that's actually who you are,
Mhm.
and your ego will do everything in its power to make sure that that is true. So if you don't think that you're enough for whatever reason, it probably came from then. It could have come from yesterday, actually. It doesn't matter when it came. However, it typically can be rooted back to them. If you can learn the mechanisms that caused you to accept that truth and learn how to do it for yourself now that you're older, you can actually easily enter different states of consciousness way more easier and help sustain those states of consciousness. So again, easier said than done. What I help folks understand is what who they are being that currently creates the reality that they're existing in, defining that, identifying what it is, bringing awareness to it, finding the clarity, and then with that clarity, we take the internal actions that actually results in external actions. So
Okay.
I'm all about what's going on internally that results in external reflection and activity.
So is it more than having a belief in an outcome? So, for example, myself, I've been doing this for about 6 months, and I still strongly believe I'm going to be part of that 8%. And I keep going and working, but every day I'm like, boy, is that really going to happen? Is
Mm.
belief enough, or is there more to it?
Um, I I don't believe belief is what I'm even talking about, to be frank. I think belief is a result of the state of consciousness that you're in. So
Okay.
what you believe you can and can't do essentially determines, or is actually determined by your identity or your state of consciousness.
Okay.
So if you believe that you're going to be part of that 8%, what I would say to one of my clients would be, well, then why don't you just start saying that you're the 8% now? What's preventing you from seeing yourself that way right now? Oh, because you don't see the physical results? Well, as long as you keep looking into your mirror, thinking your mirror is going to change, you're going to forever be reflecting what's causing that reflection.
Okay.
So, so if you want your mirror's reflection to raise its hand, what do? You raise your hand. Well, if you want to be part of that 8%, instead of waiting to be that 8% in the form of activity, start being the 8% and start noticing, holy crap, my activity starts to change.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so subtle, and this is what I work with. This is why my coaching is so different than others. I actually find the subtleties in your subconscious thinking that like signifies, oh, because I mean, even scripture, I don't know if you read the Bible at all. However, in scripture, it does say that no longer do you wait 4 months till harvest, thrust in, thrust in the sickle now and reap your harvest. In other words, you have to be the harvester before the harvest even shows itself. That's the point. And that's what I hope you see in your day-to-day life. Because the more often you see yourself as that 8%, the easier it is to be in that 8%. It just becomes normal to you, you know.
Sure. That Does it show up just in the areas you're focusing on? So if I want to be part of the 8%, clearly that's a professional goal, professional outcome. Do I have to be that person or every other aspect of my life? Meaning, um,
No.
okay. So,
No, however, the way you show up in one area is likely how you show up in another area, right? So, no, no. The state of consciousness, the concept of yourself in regards to business or making money has its own way of being. That's ideal for Corey.
okay.
And that can leak over to your spouse or your dating life, or I don't know if you're married or not, but it does leak over into your romantic life. It leaks over into your family life. Same thing. If we were focusing on your family relationships and we were working there, yeah, we change your being in that relationship, and it kind of would automatically seep into your business life. Because honestly, if you're being honest with yourself, your business, your family, your spouse, your friends, that's actually all one. There actually is no separation between any of those things. However, you do, take off your 9 to 5 or your business hat,
Mhm.
and then yeah, you got to be present with your wife or your kids and all that stuff. And so that being shows itself in the form of family. That being shows itself in the form of Maserati in the garage, or Honda Civic. It. I was actually just on a coaching call just now with the client, um, and he was lamenting to me how two of his friends. He has Two of his friends happen to be multimillionaires, two different industries. One industry is limo services, the other industry is real estate. And he's like, Jerry, my friend in limo, he's working 16-hour days, but man, he's making his millions, but he never has any time for his, family and this, and the other.
Hmm.
Then he describes his other friend who does real estate. He's like, bro, people are like calling him and he's flying over to islands I've never heard of before, and they're doing this. And I asked him, I was like, well, isn't that interesting? You have a friend who makes seven figures, but barely has any time for himself. And then you have another friend who, by the way, I didn't mention this part. He has another friend who makes $1 million doing real estate and has it seems like he has all the time in the world, except he doesn't have time all the time in the world. They're in the middle of a golf course and he has to leave in the middle of a golf outing to take care, to put out some fire. And he has a mentor who's in marketing and he only works 4 hours a day. So how is it possible that all these multimillionaires all have different lifestyles going on? It's because of who they are being. If you change who you're being, everything has to reflect to match that. So if you start seeing yourself as success, whatever success means to Corey, that's what will be reflected. And so it might come in the form of a 60-hour work week, because for whatever reason, that's how Corey sees success to be. And thusly, he does those things. And if he changes that concept of himself, he could change that 60-hour work week to a 20-hour work week if he changes his concept of himself.
That's interesting. I've recently kind of drawn a line in the sand that I don't want to work 12, 14 hours a day, just sitting there calling, dialing all day. So I've kind of switched my strategy a little bit. And I basically have told people I'm the guy that's going to show up for, 3, 4 hours, take phone calls, inbound phone calls, and write 20 grand in business. And that's just what I'm going to do. And it seems
Exactly.
honestly, it's kind of working, not as quickly as I would have planned on it to, but then that doubt creeps in. So should I be
Mm,
doing it a little more? Should I be stretching my hours back up? What my view of success would be a regular 8 to 5 where I can make 30, 40, 50 grand a month. And so trying to figure out how to be that person that does that is kind of eluding me a little bit.
mm,
So, you know, um, in other areas of my life, I drive a 24-year-old vehicle that's 250,000 miles on it that I don't view as success, but it's paid off. So I guess that's a win, right? I don't. So, but the part of me before that was where I was working 12 or 14 hours a day, Monday through Saturday, didn't have time to be the father and husband and a friend I wanted to be and the activities. And I basically gave up going to the gym and playing sports and things like that I normally do for recreation to try to focus on this. And I feel like I'm still trying to figure out how it all is supposed to meld together for what I see.
mm.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts on? It just seems like just a never elusive problem to solve. So when people say you have to be what you want to become, it's hard for me to picture that. I don't know if that's a common thing you see
Yeah.
with what you're doing.
Yeah. So that's actually very common. It's again, it comes back down to the easier said than done, or even how do I even. So when you say something along the lines of it feels ever elusive, that's to me, that's not a throwaway line. To me, that's your state of consciousness.
Okay.
And a lot of times when people say I feel, that lets me know who they are actually being. You can give me all the activity, all the activity, all the activity, and then they'll say, "God, it feels like I'm going to be doing this forever." Boom. All right, now we can move. Because now I'll say to you, Corey, all right, let's get back into that feeling of elusiveness. What does that actually feel like? You said it feels away, but like, really, what does that feel like to you? Can you slow it down without the thinking and say, wait, that feeling of elusiveness, where is that in my body, let's say?
I mean, it seems like it's just that's where doubt kind of creeps in, and so
Correct.
if my plan is to, log on for 3, 4 hours a day and take phone calls and write one application a day, if I have 2 days in a row where I don't write an app, that feels like, well, that's not the plan I have in place. So that's why it feels like it's elusive. And um, I don't know if in terms, it's a thought. I wouldn't say it's anything in my body. It's more of a thought that I'm feeling or seeing. So I don't really feel it like in my stomach or whatever, but it does show up as maybe stress in my shoulders and,
There you go. There you
so
go. Because it does actually. So when we say things, they actually come from a thought, but that thought comes from a feeling. And when I say feeling, it's not necessarily an emotion, although a lot of times it is. It a lot of times it's a sensate. It can just be a sensation, and then we define that sensation and say, "Oh, it feels elusive," or "Oh, it feels overwhelming," or "Oh, it feels painful," or "Oh, we are defining it with our thoughts, but that feeling was there before. And so, does that make sense?
yeah. And that kind of seems like it leads back to who you're being is where the feelings come in. And that's what drives the thoughts that drive the words and then you have the reticular activating system that confirms what you're thinking and feeling, right? Is that
Correct.
okay?
Correct. That's
So,
exactly right. Reticular activating system. Um, Psychocybernetics, Maxwell Maltz. So that right there is the exact model of how it unfolds. Most people um, don't know that they can slow it down to actually observe that process. And so, what I'm actually even helping you do it right now, which is to ask you, okay, you said it feels elusive. Well, let's lock in. What feels elusive? What is this it that feels elusive, right? So then we slow it down. Where is it in your body? Oh, I kind of feel it in my shoulders. It might be somewhere else, but right now that's where we've identified. Great. So we now have a definition. It's elusive. Now we have a location, right? Slowing it down. And then we even get away from the thoughts itself and just feel the sensation in our body. And then you can ask yourself, it's okay to feel this or else I wouldn't be feeling it. The question is though, how do I want to be feeling now? I want to be free of this pain. I want to be um I want to be more clear. I want what's doubt? The opposite of doubt is clarity. Um calm. Frustration. Opposite of frustration is ease, right? So whatever that feeling that you defined is, bring it back down to the sensation. Once you get that sensation, if you can pull your attention away from the sensation and then put that attention on what it is that you do want to be experiencing or feeling, then experiencing that feeling. And if you feel that more than you feel the doubt, this will start taking over. And then your reticular activating system will give you more proof of ease. Wow, this feels easy. Oh, sending these emails? Simple.
yeah,
Oh, talking to my wife about XYZ thing that usually triggers me? Easy, right? And then again, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you start noticing it and start playing with it in your work life, more than likely it will start showing up in your love life. Why? Because you'll be in practice. You can't separate yourself from yourself wherever you find yourself. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Trying to identify a physical feeling to link it back to your thoughts and how those are kind of guiding you. Is that kind of what, when they say gratitude and stress can't exist in the same person. So high performers are often expressing gratitude on a daily basis to stay in that mindset. Is that kind of where run a parallel, or is there more to it.
I again, I think everything is rooted from your identity or your state of being. So, like when you get given a gift, you're you're grateful. It's like thank you. I say thank you, Father. You know, it's just like thank you. Like you can't help but be grateful when you get given a gift, right?
Right.
So if you are operating in states of receiving um, ease, uh, clarity, things like that, you feel light. You just feel relief, so
Right.
relieved that you can't help but feel grateful.
Yeah.
You know, right? When you are frustrated and you know everything's throwing everything at you, right? One of your employees decided that they're going to call it today. Meanwhile, you have this big project you have to finish up. Oh, and you just got off the phone with your wife nagging you about something, and so now you're really spinning out of control,
Yeah.
right? Oh, and then don't forget that. Um, oh yeah, and oh now what? Transmission just went out.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So you have all these things attacking you, and your mind will want to go, well, what's the point?
Hmm.
And that's where most people operate from. Well, fuck this. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Screw this. Right? Um, fine. Or they'll say, screw this. Right? And I'm like, all right, fine. Let me just get my task list out and let me just call these people. I don't have time to deal with, my wife right now, and I don't have to get time to deal with employee X doing XYZ thing. At least the one thing I can control is making these calls. And then you're making these calls, and then nobody answers the call,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Or someone does answer the call, but you're still fighting with your wife back here.
Yeah.
Your amygdala is still firing like crazy, right? So it doesn't matter the activity that you do. You're still going to produce the same result. Does that make sense, Corey?
Uh, yeah, because that's what's been happening. I would get on and dial for 12 hours a day and 1,000 dials or 1,200 dials or whatever, and not get a single presentation for an entire week at times. And it's the most confusing, bewildering thing because I'm doing more activity that I can control and having less control of the outcomes. And
Right.
and the more you do that and bang your head against the wall, it seems like then you start fighting with yourself. Am I capable of this? You start fighting the doubts, you start fighting the demons, and then you show up differently outside, and it just expands. So how do you catch yourself, or what do you do to catch yourself to
Yeah.
just kind of rein yourself back in? Because showing up the wrong way does absolutely no good. I mean, unless you get lucky, which doesn't seem to happen
Right.
enough, you know?
Um, so what I help folks do is I help them start noticing excuse me, I help them start noticing their autopilot. So their default state of being, which is what produces the same results, same activities, same patterns, hamster wheel, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And I get them to start having an uncritical observation of what they say to themselves about themselves and their world. Once they start getting clear on what it is that they keep saying to themselves and actually finding those subtle things you say to yourself, you'll learn to be in manual pilot. So you'll be the operator. So it's like, oh, I'm operating this way. Trigger,
Mhm.
boom. This is what I'm going to do. And you enter this state. You actively choose to be a different person. And the only way you can do that is by first noticing who you've been choosing to be, however long you've been choosing to be. Then once I've worked with that, so that's the first thing. And that just a week alone of doing that type of work
Mhm.
should actually start unlocking a lot of things for a client. Then from there, that's when I start working on visualization techniques, putting yourself into that way of being more often than not. So your ideal state, how do I enter that? You're going to have to actively choose to be in that state um, um, 3 to 4 times a day. And not only that, not because of external activity. You actually have to start doing it internally first
Okay.
and not letting the outside world dictate who you're being on the inside. That's the big problem a lot of people have. Even in the mindset community, mindset world, mindset coaching, folks are often talking about, work on your mindset, say your affirmations, do all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Practice, um, practice your calls in before you get on the call, practice your calls, all those things. Those are all great, all good, but they don't actually change your being. How you actually change your being is start seeing yourself be that person despite what the external world said. So you just got in that fight with your wife. Great. Now go back to your ideal state. Oh, I'm in a loving relationship with my wife. She totally understands me. Um, I'm the provider leader of my household, and she loves me for it. And you just keep going back into that state of consciousness, despite what the physical world showed you. I've just made 12 calls today and I'm freaking exhausted. Nobody's answering. No one's getting on my calendar. People are canceling left and right. No matter what activity. Nope. I'm going to take 5 minutes and I'm going to experience myself having a full calendar. I know it sounds nuts, but that's how the reticular activating system works. Take the 5 minutes in the middle of your afternoon and start imagining that no, you're not getting your full calendar. You have a full calendar. And start being the type of person who has a complete calendar. Be the type of person who doesn't have to chase for their next client. Even though you might physically be chasing, start imagining you're the type that clients love to talk to.
Okay. Yeah, that's again seems easy enough, but is it just kind of driven? Do you kind of journal it? You give yourself reminders every day, or like what's the method for implementing these kinds of changes that make you more self-aware to change, make
Every
your state?
everyone's different. Some people, what would conjure that feeling that you are that person? If it is journaling, scripting, those type of things. If you're writing and it evokes a feeling in you, a sensation in you, go for it. Me personally, I like to help my clients enter a state of consciousness within their imagination. Um, so I teach them how to, in the first person, present tense, be that person in their imagination, as opposed to seeing themselves doing an activity. I actually get them to experience themselves in that activity. Um, Another way might be hearing inner dialogue. So one of my clients is really good at hearing the good news from a friend or family. So they'll actually hear their friends say to them like, "Dude, you got another win?" Like I can help people. Some people are really good at hearing, so they'll hear a high five or a clasp of hands. Or what I like to do is this with folks. I'm like, all right, when you get in, I always use arguments because it's so visceral for people. But the last time you got in an argument with a friend or a family member, did you journal that fight, or did you have that fight in your head after the fight was over? You probably had it in your head, and
Mm-hmm.
it was probably real to you.
Yeah.
It's like you could probably have that fight over and over again and
Yeah.
be like, if she would have only heard this and did she not hear me say that and that, and it's literally just going on autopilot, and
Yeah.
you're not stopping it, right? So I say to myself, it's like, well, so if that's the case, You should be able to do that with something positive. And in fact, people do that with something positive. They're always just like, oh my God, when I remember when my first kid was born. Oh, I'll never forget that moment. It was just and you could literally go there and see yourself in the hospital or on the farm in my case. Or I remember my wife in her gown. There's these memories I have that I could literally just step into and feel its reality right here and now.
Yeah.
You can do this for your business.
Yeah.
You can actually do that for your business.
There's plenty of highs and lows. And so you're just vividly imagining and recalling the highs and using that to kind of anchor to kind of reset yourself.
Or even conjure up new highs. Even conjure up new highs. So if it's like y'all have a metric that y'all want to hit at the end of the month, you know, how often are y'all being the person who already hit that? So maybe it's like, you start imagining yourselves at a sales meeting and y'all hit the goal and y'all are doing your celebration, whatever y'all celebration is.
Hmm.
And you just play that scene, see everybody like, oh yeah, we hit the numbers, we hit the numbers. But it's not the vain repetition of it. It's does that conjure the same type of feeling you would get if you were fighting with somebody in your mind,
Right.
right? And of course, your ego doesn't want that because it's a lot easier to argue with somebody in your head than it is to have a pleasant conversation with somebody in your head, right?
Yeah.
Or so they say. So they say.
Yeah. That's really interesting because you're right. When you do kind of replay a fight in your head, it does, it evokes physical sensations in your body. I almost like a blackout sometimes, or just these
Mhm.
anxious nerves, and to feel it that strongly, and it takes time to unwind from that. But yeah, it's very clear you can see something and relive it, and just change what you're seeing and imagining. That's a pretty powerful thought right there. Just being able to conjure that back up and make it real.
Right.
That's
You're
yeah.
doing it right now.
I'm trying to. Yeah.
It's funny because I've been doing it for so long. It's like I can see when somebody's like here, and then when they go into their imagination obviously takes over, and then their body actually kind of, and then you can just see them floating off. And I've come to know with my coachings, with my mentorships, and all that stuff is that your imagination actually does create your reality. It's not actually something to be thrown away. I actually believe your logic and your reason are actually in subservience to what you imagine to be true about yourself. So, but our ego mind, our logical mind wants to believe that it's the one that's in charge, and
Mhm.
so it's not going to do you any favors in the sense that, oh, you want to imagine more positivity in your life. Oh, okay, cool, go ahead. It doesn't work like that. It goes, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, remember this happened and that happened, and you should feel guilty for this, and you should feel shame for that, and you don't deserve it. And because of that, you don't deserve it, and you're not worthy of it. So let's just imagine the negative, please, because that's who we are. That's how your logical mind behaves.
Yeah.
And because of that, and because it's a servant to your imagination, your imagine that's because your imagination, and now we're bringing it back, your imagination imagines itself to be, I'm just going to say this word, a loser, for lack of other words, right? So as soon as you can put your logic and your reason aside, which is what I help my clients understand,
Mhm.
it gives space for your imagination to have way more fun. So then you can start saying, all right, you know what? I did have a fight with my wife. I'm going to imagine that for a little bit so I can let it go. Once I let it go, what would I rather have happened? I would have rather the conversation have been like, babe, you look sexy when you angry. That's what I would have rather said, right?
Yeah.
And or it could be anything, but have fun
Yeah.
and start imagining that with with the same energy. And you get in practice of doing that. Imagine if you did that for 90 days in a row.
Yeah, it'd be
right?
huge.
Right.
So
And the easier said than done is the people who will rather and sit in their imagination for 90 days in a row, and the people who know what to do and maybe will do it today after they listen to this podcast, maybe tomorrow, but then on day 4 when their wife inevitably shows up again nagging, or their client comes in who said that they were going to pay but then decided, oh no, I'm going to purchase this other thing. You go back into your old version of yourself, and then that's what you're going to do for the next 90 days.
yeah, that's the autopilot. So you have
Right,
to kind of
exactly.
manually reprogram the autopilot on purpose. How long does it take
Correct.
to kind of achieve that new autopilot? I mean, is it the same as building a habit, 21 days or 30 days or whatever the rule is for building a new habit, or is
Man,
it?
I, I've seen people do it like that.
Mhm.
However, most people, um, most people most people it takes about 4 weeks, 5 weeks for it to actually click, everything to really click, because you're also getting them to understand how it works, like why these things keep showing up. But
Mhm.
just walking through them through the subtleties, by 4 weeks, it's like, oh, I get it. And then by like week 8, it feels like they can start taking the training wheels off. And then by like week 12, 13, they feel like a completely different person because they don't look at the world. They absolutely cannot look at the world the same. Now, that's not to say that they won't fall back afterwards. However, they now have the tools that they can always fall back to using the tools, right? Because they know who they are now. They actually understand like that their awareness of being isn't this character that they've been playing for 44 years of their life.
Right. Wow, that's interesting. And by all means, I intend to start putting some of this stuff into practice. Um, but it's not the first time I've tried something like this and then still end up back in square one. I've been
Mm.
like, what's that?
No, I say, I'm hearing you.
Oh, yeah. So like I wonder if there's something deeper that brings me back, or that's just, I've always just assumed I was going to be successful and rich and whatever. And I feel like I've done the work to do that, but never have achieved what I thought was going to be. But
Mhm.
when I'm in the grind and I'm doing the thing, the transactions and whatever, it never feels like I imagined success would look like. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
You feel like you're still grinding out here.
yeah, I feel like if
Yeah.
I don't keep grinding, I'm never going to be successful. But I'm
So
kind of
what would you say is the work that you do? And I know you do the insurance stuff. What I mean is, as a business owner, what would you say your practice is? Either your psychological practice or your physical practice?
in terms of the things I do repeatedly or the nature of so the things I do repeatedly, and I kind of stopped doing this. I had kind of a script I read out loud to myself every morning. It was some affirmations. It was I am, saying I'm the best person to help my clients. I'm gonna well, let me just pull it up. It's a friend of mine actually shared it with me, and I kind of adopted it for a while, but started off with a prayer and something is I'm happy. I'm grateful for everything that I have. I'm achieving great things. I focus on what I can control. I embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. I'm committed to continuous improvement and mastery, and I will make a positive impact today. I would read that out loud every morning, and it goes on with quite a bit of stuff, and it did help changing the way I
Mm,
showed up in terms of being responsive and not reactive. Because what was happening at that time is I'd get on a phone call, and as soon as there was any resistance, my nervous system would just go into overdrive, and I would almost lose the words. And My pace would pick up. I would just forget how to actually be the professional that I'm being. So that did help kind of shift me a little bit, but I
Mhm.
kind of stopped doing it, and it kind of, I feel like it kind of ran its course, and I didn't have enough there to keep moving it where I wanted it to go. Does that make sense? So
Right.
like I feel like that
Yep,
got me
totally.
to a place, and maybe I should get back to doing that every day so it takes me where I really want to go. But I'm
Mhm.
just not. I'm not sure if you know.
Were you doing so when you were doing those affirmations, um, were you doing them when you would do them, would you just be saying them or would you be experiencing them?
I think I was probably just saying them, and there was even a few times where I caught myself at the end. I'm like, well, I got that done, like a checklist item
Hmm.
instead of the
Hmm.
experience
Hmm.
of it. So
Exactly.
that's a good point. So instead of saying I am grateful, what are you grateful for? Actually experience the gratitude. I saw a quote somewhere. It said, if you want to be more grateful, you have to be better at recognizing the things to be grateful for, or something like
Mhm.
that. Um, and so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, consider this. Consider this. Stop using affirmations to get something and start thinking of affirmations as a reminder of who you are. Okay. And it's just like, so you could even do it's like, am I successful? And just like, I am successful. No, like actually start feeling successful. And then your brain will just be like, he's saying he's successful. Okay, well, there's this, and there's this,
mhm,
and there's this. Just as much as you're just like, oh, man, I suck at this. And then guess what happens? Well, there's this, and there's this, and there's this. And you don't even have to conjure them. They they come with that state of consciousness. But when we're doing vain affirmations like I'm successful, I make more than enough, like people love talking to me, I'm doing this, it's just a robot. You're not allowing yourself to experience that state. Here's a great exercise that I have with people sometimes. They go, close your eyes, and I want you. Oh gosh, how does this exercise go? I haven't done it in a while. I want you to just 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 be silent, just be still, and just for a moment, you don't have to do anything, just feel curious. Just me saying that alone gets a person to go, oh, I feel curious. Like curiosity starts to spark itself within you. All
yeah,
right. Then I'll say something along the lines, okay, just for the sake of it, just feel pissed. Just feel it. And then all of a sudden, the corresponding thoughts that go along with that feeling start to show themselves. Just feel happy. All the corresponding thoughts that go along with that show up. Whether it's like, oh, seeing your kid, you can start visioning your kids playing along, along the lake or something to go along with that state of consciousness starts to show itself. All right. So now start. I want you to, uh, if I was in the military, I would say assume the position, right? And they come and and I'm expecting my private over there to assume whatever that position is. Assume the position, and they take the position. Well, assume happiness. Just start assuming that you are happy. You don't need to be happy. Just start assuming that you're happy. You don't even need to believe that you're happy. Just assume that you're happy. Now, persist in that assumption until it hardens into fact. So when people are doing these vain affirmations, they're just saying this thing as a robot and they burn themselves out because that's actually what they're feeling. They're feeling themselves burning out. So that's actually what gets conjured out in the real world.
Okay.
And they wonder why they're falling off. As opposed to if I said to them, I was like, all right, let's just say let's work with I make more than enough. All right. Assume that you do make more than enough. How would you feel? I feel great. Great. Now feel great. Now persist in the feeling of feeling great or gratitude. Persist in that feeling. And it harden. You can feel it hardening in you where you're just like, oh, wait a minute. There it is. Now you can drop it, go into your day. And then if you get snapped at, you can use that exercise again. Wait a minute. I'm feeling like shit right now. Let me feel happy. Let me just assume I'm happy right now. I don't need to be happy. I don't need to have a reason to feel happy. Let me just assume I am.
Yeah.
And now let me persist in that assumption. And then as you persist in that assumption, it will harden it to fact. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
that's interesting. You're basically just, as long as you're aware of it and conscious of it, you can kind of control those activities to become and assume who you are. And so
Mhm.
doing that repeatedly will change who you are. And that's kind of the point, right?
Mhm.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah,
It's
and
been a,
do it more often than not. If you can be in that state 51% of the day, what type of results would you get, do you think?
yeah, probably better results. Even if I'm only in
Yeah,
that state for, well, I mean, I want to be in that state always. I mean, you always want to be happy and curious and joyful because it's a good feeling. But
right.
you got to kind of, because I oftentimes will find when I'm doing things that are supposed to be relaxing or whatever, that I'm thinking about something else. And it's just my mind just not maybe being present. And, you know, I like what I do and I think I'm pretty good at it, but, um, still, I'm almost still waiting for more proof. I've seen some proof, but, um, see, talking to you, it seems like I can control more of those things than I'm giving myself credit for. I kind of wait for external validation, like, oh yeah, the person bought from me because they wanted to buy it, not because of how I helped them make that decision, you know?
Because of
So
who
it's,
you were being. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's it's amazing how this job, doing phone telesales will kind of expose, I was never so much aware of how I show up comes right out of my mouth and my voice when I'm talking to people.
Hmm.
So if I am even a little bit off, they feel it. And it's crazy how that, and you feel like you're saying the same things in the same tones and just it's positive inflections, etc. But something's definitely different, and the results kind of show up that way. But I just have some more work to do on becoming that version of myself. That's
Yeah.
that's interesting. So
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time. This has been a great conversation, and I think it's going to help a lot of people as they listen to it. Um, but coming up on an hour, if somebody wanted to work with you, Jerry, looks like you have a couple of different programs on your website to help them go through kind of this stuff and become a better version of themselves. What is the best way to reach out to you and get you?
Yeah. Um, yeah. The best way, believe it or not, my website's actually not the best way to get a hold of me. The best way to get a hold of me is either through email at jerry@jerryemeka.com.
Okay,
Or you can message me on Instagram at human.imagination.
okay,
And right now, for any of your podcast guests, I'll give you a Calendly link, and they can book a free 30-minute consultation with me, where they can ask me any questions they want to have a little deeper dive on any of the things that we talked about today,
oh, that's awesome.
or even if they or just even want to get a taste of what it's like to work with me. It's a $250 value. However, for any of your listeners, they can totally sit down with me for 30 minutes. And one of your teammates is one of my clients. Actually, he's
Yeah,
who put us in touch, and so
yeah,
so he can even talk to one of your employees and see what it's like to work with me.
yeah, awesome. That'd be amazing to add that kind of value. And I will probably take you up on that as well.
Okay.
So
Very good.
awesome. Well, it was great talking with you, Jerry. I appreciate you coming on. We'll wrap it up. Thanks for listening to the Dialing for Dollars podcast. If you enjoyed the show, like, subscribe, and share with another agent who's still calling leads at 8 p.m. Have a good one.